And Wiley, Steve Beuerlein is back with us. Time now for Darnell's question of the day.
Can't wait.
Warn you, Steve,
I wonder what it is.
Huge Colts fan. Huge Colts fan.
Huge Colts fan. So let's move to Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
Got a lot of praise after news of his retirement broke over the weekend. But one guy actually tore him apart, none other than you, Mr. Steve Beuerlein, who tweeted out, "I'm a huge Andrew Luck fan. Always have been. But this I cannot defend or justify. No scenario where retirement is defensible. To do this to his teammates, organization, fans, and the NFL 2 weeks before the season is just not right. I love the guy, but this will haunt him." You know what, Steve? Luck was my guy, but I did say earlier in the week that I did believe he quit on the team. I want to hear you explain your comments here for us.
Well, we were just talking during the break. I think from my perspective, it's pretty easy. And I know it's an emotional thing. And I was emotional when I wrote that tweet. I am a huge Andrew Luck fan. I've always been. I'll even admit I had a man crush on him, for a long time. Because I was like, boy, I wish I could do the things that he could do as a football player, as a prototypical quarterback. But the bottom line, if you ask me, this was the only way that he could have screwed up this decision. I'm not questioning whether he retired or not, whether he should retire or not. But if he would have done it 3 months ago, after the season like Gronk did, and like Barry Sanders did when he retired, and like all the other guys before him, the big name players, if he did it at that point, no problem. It's his right and his prerogative to do that. Or do it after the season this year, or it's not going to be such a disruption to his team. That's what upset me about this thing. Number one, until we hear something otherwise, I believe it's an injury that should heal. His high ankle sprain or whatever it might be. Why in the world, what argument is there that he, going into the NFL season 2 weeks before, why he would retire and throw his organization in chaos instead of going on the injured reserve list? Giving himself a couple of months to maybe see if he can get his head right. Maybe his ankle starts feeling better. Maybe he keeps hope alive in that locker room that, hey, if we can get to the halfway point, Andrew Luck might come back and ride that white horse, take us all the way to the Super Bowl. Why would you not give that opportunity to happen? That's what gets me. And I'm not judging him, and I'm not saying that Andrew Luck is a bad person and he shouldn't retire. I'm just saying that the timing of that decision, it would have been better for the organization if he would have said, "Coach, I'm not into this. My foot's not ready. Put me in IR and we're going to figure it out."
I wanted to quit the game of football at age 11. It's in my book, actually. My father looked at me.
I quit after my freshman year.
Boom, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
At that age, I needed proper protection and guidance. My dad said, if you really want to quit after the season since you already started. And I have no problems with it. Thank God my father was there in that moment. Andrew Luck is 29 years old. Doesn't need the same protection and guidance. So I must disagree with you, my man. And talk about two things. One, it's always your right and it's always your prerogative to make this type of decision as an adult.
I agree with that.
And your emotions don't need to be validated and they don't need to be contextualized by outsiders, because the frustration he was dealing with and the courage he had to finally exude that to all to see and to criticize, to me, shows me the depth of pain he was dealing with. Now, I've been in this position before. I was a guy who went to my own mountaintop and realized every injury was knocking me down, and one day, a realization I'm never going to get back to that place. Now, others may forecast that. Others may predict that. Some may say, oh, you stopped yourself short. But that is what they think. In my report card, trust me, I grade harder than any other teacher or critic in the world. And I think Andrew Luck came to a place of peace that says, your grading system is on a curve that I'm not subscribing to anymore. So it's Andrew Luck that has to answer to Andrew Luck ultimately, even though we all get to witness it.
Can I respond?
Oh, you better.
Okay. There's a word that we're not putting out there. Obligation. Obligation. Have you ever been a franchise quarterback? Responsibility. Have you ever been a franchise quarterback?
No.
I haven't either, believe it or not. I have never been a franchise quarterback.
Right.
I always dreamed of being one, but I never had that opportunity, or maybe wasn't good enough to get that opportunity. The bottom line is that organization committed and invested in him. And to do this to a team going into this season, I believe he has an obligation to try to handle this situation in the best way possible. Even if he knows he's going to retire, why create a controversy going into the season when you can easily defer that conversation until after the season by just saying it's best for this organization. Maybe I might even change my mind because I even admitted in my previous, in the press conference, I've only thought about this for about 10 days. That's what he said. It was a quote from him.
Right.
So give yourself another couple of months to think about it. Go to Europe for a month, get away, let that foot heal up a little bit. Maybe you'll come back in a month or month and a half and say, I actually want to play. I want to try to take this team to the Super Bowl.
I hear what you're saying, Steve. I think obligation is a really tough word. I do think there's a responsibility when you take on, accept all that money and everything they give you as a franchise quarterback. But obligation, and you've chosen that word intentionally, that gives you no wiggle room. And you're saying that
I think your obligation is to try to do the right thing. I didn't say he's got an obligation to stay and go on injured reserve. He's got an obligation to try to do what's in the best interest of the organization at that point.
I think in Andrew Luck's mind, he did that. In his mind. What he thinks is in the best interest of the organization may differ from you and Jim Irsay and Frank Reich and Jacoby Brissett. But he did what he felt was in his best interest, and I think part of he thinks in the team's best interest.
I always will bring this up. Byron Leftwich, who was a franchise quarterback, who went to the season ticket holder luncheon, who was the man, and then they said, August 31st, get up out of here. David Garrard, your turn.
Of course that can happen anytime.
Well, then guess what? It can go the otother way as well. This obligation is not two ways.
But guess what? Guess what? The boss can always fire you.
Yeah.
Period.
And the employee can always walk away.
The employee can always walk away, no doubt.
Right.
One NFL legend wants young stars like Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott to think more like NBA players. I'll tell you why LaDainian Tomlinson is crazy. Next!